Welcome to Horus Eldlich. Horus is a brand new archetype that was just revealed in the OCG, and it already shows tons of potential. A very graveyard-centric strategy, the archetype revolves around the new continuous spell card Pharaonic Sarcophagus, which, fun fact, is the only card in the game with a 4 times per turn effect, which allows the deck to dump all 4 Horus monsters into the graveyard at the cost of a few discards. Its lineup of monsters all become free special summons from the graveyard as long as Sarcophagus stays on the field, allowing the deck to put huge amounts of pressure on the opponent very quickly and make full use of the vast rank 8 toolbox. Since the deck needs a ton of discard fodder, I thought there's no cleaner fit than Eldlich, a deck that can more or less use the graveyard as a second hand. With the grind game of Eldlich and the power and protection of Horus, this is definitely a deck to keep on the lookout for when it drops an Age of Overlord. Now here's an example of how Horus Eldlich actually plays, and this is a hand of Blessing, Dimensional Barrier, Glory, Aegis, and Conquistador. Now for what these cards actually do, Glory is the only one that actually does anything in a hand. The rest of the Horus monsters have to be in the graveyard to really do much of anything. But don't worry, Glory makes up for it, because when it's in the hand, you can send 2 cards from your hand to the graveyard, including this card, to search Pharaonic Sarcophagus, then draw another card. So this is basically the main starter, and you always want to see Glory in hand. The weakness of the deck is there's no way to get to it, you just have to draw it. And if you don't draw it or Sarcophagus, it doesn't do much. But that's why you'll see later that this deck is running a decent bit of draw power to make sure you can see it. Now as far as what we want to do in this hand, first, we will go ahead and activate Glory's effect, discarding itself and another Horus monster to search Sarcophagus. Then we will activate Sarcophagus. And this card's effect is that Horus monsters you control cannot be destroyed by card effects unless they target them. Then you can send a card from your hand to the graveyard to send a Horus monster from deck to the grave, and you can use that effect 4 times per turn. And this last effect is soft once per turn at the start of the damage step. If your Horus monster battles an opponent's monster, you can send it to the grave. So it gets an easy way to win battle, tons of setup, and a interesting level of protection. We'll go ahead and start discarding Horus monsters to set up all 4 in the grave, and as you can see, you can just special summon them for free. You can only special summon them once per turn, but you can do it every turn as long as Sarcophagus is on the field. Then, we can go ahead and start making rank 8s out of them. There is the option of just keeping them on the field, because they have varying effects, all depending on when your opponent sends a monster you control to the grave, or a card you control. But their effects aren't as good as the rank 8s. For example, Glory, when a card leaves the field by opponent's card effect, you can send the card in the field to the grave. Aegis gives you targeting protection. And then these two definitely have much stronger effects. Blessing lets you draw equal to the number of much different names. And Vanguard recycles banished cards or cards from the graveyard to your hand. So you could just end it here, using the 2 sort of weaker Horuses to make a rank 8 and then keeping these on field. Now, Vanguard is especially strong in this deck, because it lets you recycle your banished Eldlich traps, basically letting the deck go on forever. But in this case, I would go ahead and make a second rank 8 and pass. So what does Endboard do? Well, we have Hope Harbinger, which is a spell negate, we have Photon Lord, which is a monster negate, and we have Sanguine and Conquistador Goldland to pop a monster on the field, or a face-up card rather. So it's a pretty good endboard that can definitely interrupt things. And we also drew Dimensional Barrier, even though this isn't consistent, it's still there. And as far as the recurability and follow-up, we have the Eldlich engine, of course, and we can bring back whatever Horus monsters hit the grave with Sarcophagus every single turn and keep making rank 8s. So this deck has a great resource loop and grind game as long as it can get set up. Now here's a quick example duel of the deck going first, with a hand of Hakero, double triple attack, Lava Golem, and Glory. And this hand is actually generally pretty strong, although there is one issue in the opponent's hand, and that is Ash Blossom. This deck has a terrible time against Ash. If Glory gets hit by it, your turn might be ending. But this version in particular has a decent amount of ways to play around that. To start off with, we go ahead and fire off Glory, get hit by Ash, but don't worry, we have triple attack. We draw 2, and we actually spike Sarcophagus off the top. Now we can go ahead and start discarding. And, well, the Eldlich traps are pretty much free discards because they both replace themselves, so we're not really losing any card advantage off of them. Then we go ahead and start summoning the Horuses, making rank 8s, and trigger the last of the Golden Lord cards. So now we have the pretty standard end board, which is a monster negate, a spell negate, and a pop, which is pretty strong. And you can customize this end board with whatever rank 8s you want, or you can keep a certain amount of Horuses on the field. There's plenty of freedom with the deck. So in this case, this board is pretty good and is able to more or less stop everything the opponent would have. Using Conquistador to go ahead and stop the Vishuda, then negate the Taya, negate the spell as well, and the Desires doesn't draw anything useful. We go to our turn, and just start comboing off. Now here in this case, in this turn I do have lethal, but I gave it an extra turn just to show that the deck has plenty of follow-up play on later turns. So we can use the second Conquistador to pop the Ashuna, and get the Emergence, gets impermed, and then we chain Barrier, calling Synchro. They get Taya, we can negate it, and when they try to go to battle with Taya, we can use Sarcophagus to immediately send it to the grave. So you can see, a pretty clean game. So can win going first. So what? Most modern decks can. Well, don't worry, the deck still has plenty of game going second, especially some of the powerful staples it can play because it lacks a normal summon. To start off with, our opponent will do pretty normal things, over Chi Zhao and doing normal Sword Soul combos, and we have a hand of Glory, double triple attack, Scarlet Sanguine, and Sarcophagus. Not the best hand, but definitely not the worst hand. And it's especially helped by our top-decked Lava Golem, which we can flawlessly play, which will immediately go ahead and tribute over the opponent's field. Then we go ahead and use Glory to search Sarcophagus, draw 1, then use Curse Outland to search Golden Lord, discard Golden Lord and Elixir to pop a back row, then use Phoenix Sarcophagus, bring back Glory, dump more, bring back Vanguard and Blessing, then grab Golden Lord, trigger Curse Outland, and go ahead and go for lethal. So this deck can make OTKs very quick, especially helped with the attack boosting effects of Golden Lord and Blessing. Now for the deck list. As for the Horus ratios, I'm running Triple Glory, as it's the one you always want to see in hand. As you see Sarcophagus, draw cards, set up the graveyard, a fantastic card, although it's a little bit weak to Ash Blossom. Then I'm running one of each of the other Horus monsters, as you don't really want to draw them, but they're all fantastic in the graveyard, they're all free special summons, they're great. As far as their actual effects, as earlier stated, Glory lets you send a card in the field of the grave when a card you control leaves the field by an opponent's card effect. Aegis gives you targeting protection. Vanguard allows you to recycle banished cards or cards in the graveyard, or shuffle cards into the deck. It's a fantastic card in this variant in particular, because you can recycle banished Golden Lands and Scarlet Sanguines to keep the Eldlich engine going on basically forever. And then Blessing allows you to draw cards whenever equal to the number of different monsters you control, so that's another way to get a big plus. Blessing also has the ability to boost its attack by 1200 for each Horus monster you control, going up to 4800, which is great. That beats over pretty much any relevant monster. I'm running Triple Lava Golem as the deck has no normal summon, and it's an amazing going second tool. I'm running double Magician's Souls as there's tons of spell traps on discard, and it's a great way to draw cards. As far as your high level spellcaster send, thankfully Glory is a spellcaster, although it is kind of annoying to have less in deck. Souls is still a great card. I could see playing 3, I just ran 2 because of deck space reasons. Playing Triple Sarcophagus, you always want this in your hand. Fantastic card, it's the whole deck. Triple Attack and both Triple Attacks are amazing staple cards, and Talent in particular lets you draw cards, which is very convenient in this deck. And Thrust lets you search Eldlich traps if you want, or set something like D-Barrier. I'm running this as a Thrust target. I'm running a Called By because Ash Blossom is so devastating against this deck, you want a way to stop it. And I didn't get to this card yet, but Canopic Protector is an amazing trap card, and you want to run 3 because it's the completely free discard, and its effect is that once per chain, when your opponent activates a card or effect, you can special summon a Horus monster from your hand or graveyard, but for the rest of the turn, you cannot special summon monsters with the same name by the effect of Canopic Protector. And this is not once per turn, so you can summon all 4 Horus monsters as long as your opponent keeps using effects. An amazing way to get a good ground game going whenever your opponent starts activating effects, and swarm the field. I could maybe see running less, but I feel like it's just too valuable, especially in a slower deck like this. And I'm running pretty standard Eldlich ratios. There's not much to say about the deck. Hasn't really changed in 3 years, it's doing the same things as always. As for the texture deck, I'm running most of the good rank 8s. Now one I didn't get to specify really, but it's an amazing one, is Giant Trainer. Very easy to summon, it's not hard to get through level 8s, and it can unbrick some hands that maybe don't have a lot of Eldlich access, because you get to draw 3 cards. Great card. And then we have cards like Dingarsu, Galaxy Eyes Photon Lord, Hope Harbinger, and then Draglubion and Numeron Dragon for easy OTKs. I'm also running the Spider ranks, as well as the Trains as rank ups from your other Xyz, as well as ways to get more material under a Zeus, as the deck has very easy Zeus access. Although Zeus can be a little counterintuitive because you really don't want Sarcophagus to hit the grave, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. And as far as the links I'm running, just Unicorn and Access Code Talker, as the Horus monsters make great link material in case you need to go for an OTK. And Soldier of Chaos is a very nice summon to use used up golden lands, and it's also can get its protection effect off of the Horus monsters, so it's not great, but it's decent filler.